Welcome to the Team Powerhouse Show, a very special night, a very special event. We have a legendary legend in the hot seat, in the center over here, over 30 years in the mortgage industry. Knowledge is power, and the power of knowledge is with us tonight. Michael Christoforo, Guaranteed Rate Affinity. Thank you so much for joining. Erik Vasquez on your far right. David Lamel here. It is Tuesday night, and it's a main event for you to learn about so much here in mortgage and products and rates and opportunities, and I'm excited for you guys to know more. All right, Michael.
Thank you, David.
Absolutely, buddy. So you're still Guaranteed Rate,
Yes, sir.
a great company,
Very good company. It's
You've been
been 14 years now.
14 years just with GRA.
Yeah, GRA, but there was a merger with PHH before that. You know, there's a few of
Guaranteed
them.
Rate
before.
Affinity, Michael Christoforo, 30 years in the business, right? 30
33.
plus? 33. You know, there's not a
Solid.
realtor out there that's been in the business in the last few years who doesn't know who you are. And that's one of the biggest advantages that we have as agents is working with somebody who's a legend in the business, so that when an offer comes on a home and they see this guy's name on it, you just jump ahead of the line as a buyer. Would you like to share anything about that?
Thank you very much. That's very nice of you. No, I mean, well, you deal more on the offers than I do,
True.
but I have heard on several circumstances where people have called me and said, "I've worked with you in the past, and you know, it's nice to."
Not to mention they recognize you. Look, hey, didn't you work at Berkshire Hathaway so many years ago? Right?
Yep.
I mean, this guy has been in the business a long time. It's crazy to know that you've
I've been in the
lasted this
business
long.
more than the age of most of my clients. I hate to say it. I mean, you know, you think about it. Our clients that are all in their 20s and 30s, they got in when I was already in the business, which is really sad how old we're getting.
That is true. Erik Vasquez, what do you think about this guy here? Michael Christoforo.
Oh, you kidding me? So like when I'm sending an offer and I put in the, so you put in the terms, it goes, hey, just note these guys are this and this and this, and I go, and note the lender is Michael Christoforo, GRA, you know? Because it's like, those are the highlights.
Those are the highlights.
Those are the highlights.
When you got a highlight reel in front of you about to spread the news and information, education, be ready for it. But make sure
Thank
to ask
you.
questions and make sure to have Michael Christoforo's phone number in front of you also.
Can you read these?
Michael, if you don't mind, can you tell the world, please, what your cell phone number is?
203-314-7352. 203-314-7352.
And then make sure to have that on the screen in front of you as well. Because we're going to cover a lot of things here tonight. And just to make sure that if you miss something or have a question that's outside the box of what we're talking about, you call him. That's a cell number for a mortgage broker, not a 1-800 number. This is a guy that works 7 days a week, just like we do.
Yep.
His wife appreciates him getting calls. His sons and his daughter appreciate him working because that keeps them, you know, able to do what they want to do. Right?
Touche.
Touche. All right. So, Mike Christoforo, let's talk about the rates today. What kind of rates are we looking at right now?
You know, right now on the Chaffa FHA, right now we're looking at around 5.625.
Wow.
On the Chaffa conventional, we're roughly right around 6. We're similar on the conventional, regular conventional loans right now are roughly in the high 5s to 6% range.
Yeah.
And you know, if the FHAs are going to be lower, they're
Well,
probably going to be in the mid 5s.
We got a client just recently under contract, an investor, self-employed, an investor who's owner-occupied in a multi, putting down 25%. They're putting some good money down,
Yep.
about 5.5%.
Yeah.
Now these are crazy rates right now. We were at almost 9% in the last year and a half, right?
Yep.
So rates are coming down, which is great. But you need to understand that when rates are coming down, that means there's more buyers on the table, making you that many more offers on the same homes you're shopping for. You've got to make sure you have the right person working for you. Michael, you got a lot of products to talk about. Erik has a bunch that he likes to work with and use with you. I've got a bunch to talk about and work with you. I know you're a knowledgeable person in the renovation field. Should we touch on the renovation loans a little bit?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. So give us like the basic understanding of what a renovation loan is to people out there watching.
Well, what it is and how it works.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Because
Sure.
I'm sure you have an abbreviated or an abridged version of it. Because when I'm trying to explain it to my clients, and they're like, you know, because like if you got somebody who just doesn't hit that qualification for a regular house, and they need to buy that fixer-upper, they have some room there. It's really kind of difficult to explain everything. I wish I had like a cheat sheet that just explained the whole thing.
Sure.
Good point, Eric. We do need a cheat sheet. That's actually a good idea. But kind of get into it, please.
So in a nutshell, you know, in this competitive market,
Yes.
when houses are just flying off the shelves and there's multiple bids still on everything, it's nice if you find a house that needs a little bit of work, you like the location, it allows you to be able to do it. Like I have one right now, it's about $500,000 and it does not have the water on because it had a leak. So it's shut down, it's been bank owned for a while. We can come in here, we get a quote for the contractor to do the plumbing and mold remediation and one to do the repairs on the floors, and we can make the thing work. So for, you know, you buy it for $500,000 and let's say the work on that situation was like about 25 grand. So you can just basically buy that house with as little as 3.5% on an FHA or 5% down on a conventional based on the purchase price plus the improvements to the house. So you're getting a house that's actually fully functional. We don't have as much competition because people don't know about it or don't want to do the renovations. So it actually makes it a little bit more, you know, makes your offer stand out.
Well, more desirable for you as a buyer because you now have options that other people don't have. They probably don't know about a renovation loan, what even existing, number one, how it works, who to talk to about these kind of things. There are a lot of questions you want to ask in the process of getting a renovation loan, right, Eric? I mean,
Right.
because, like, what can you have done in a renovation? Like, is there a maximum amount of work, maximum dollar amount you can spend on a renovation loan?
It depends on the type of product that there is. So, you know, if it's an FHA, that's just going up to $75,000, I believe, on the new one. It used to be down to 35,000. Now it's up to 75. So they've increased that one, and that you only need 3.5% down on the purchase price plus the improvements. You know, VA, there's a VA product that we have that's 100% financing, so they need nothing on the purchase price plus the improvements.
So you can buy a house with no money down being a veteran. Thank God and thank you so much for being a veteran. You, the VA, deserve everything. But we'll get into that afterwards because I'm very passionate about that. The VA buyer can come in with no money down. We're going to put a deposit for holding the property, obviously. But then they can have work done to the house. Now, the contractors. Are these contractors that are recommended by the loan company that they've screened already in advance? Or is this a contractor that is somebody that they can bring on that has to get qualified by the loan company? There's got to be something involved, right?
Yes, I mean, typically, we have contractors that I've used for multiple projects. However, it's never something that we recommend to the client because we don't want that liability.
Right.
So typically, the clients are usually going to find the contractor that they want, and then we will, then we'll have that contractor vetted, and then have them approved to do the work.
Is it a tough process for the contractor to get approved?
Not necessarily. I mean, they are looking at
Licensed,
their licensed, insured, all that kind of stuff. All that has to all be done and approved, and we have to look at their references. We actually contact their previous jobs that they've done to make sure that people are happy with them. So we're protecting you as well as protecting us as a lender to make sure that, that you're not doing, that they're not doing shoddy work.
So could I ask you again, it's a little bit more specific?
Sure.
So let's say I have a client who qualifies on a conventional loan for $300,000,
Yep.
right? Okay, so that's their starting point, $300,000, okay? And they're unable to find a house using that qualification, okay?
Mhm.
And then they come across a house and it's a fixer-upper, and it's listed for, let's say, $225,
Mhm.
okay? how does it work in the way of what's the separation? Because they're qualified up to 300,000. Are they still qualified up to 300,000 on a renovation loan? Does it transfer,
question.
does that figure transfer over to a renovation loan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then explain a little bit how the difference of the purchase price to what their qualification is makes up the entirety of the loan, if you could expand
Absolutely.
on that.
It's a great question. I would say that it's not going to transfer directly because the interest rates are higher on the renovation than they are on what your traditional pre-approval is. So
Right.
if you approve for 300,000, it might be 275 if we're looking at the higher interest rate,
Right.
affecting that. So higher interest rate could definitely affect a little bit. On top of that, there are some closing costs on the renovations that you would not have necessarily on a purchase. So that might actually drop it a little bit. So in that situation, let's just figure 10,000 off the top of that. So if it was 275, take off another 10 for, just as a ballpark, it's not gonna be that much, but just
Right.
take off the 10 grand. So 265 minus the purchase price of 225. So if they can do the work for, somewhere around $45,000, then that would probably work.
Okay, and I remember, because Marco does it.
Yes.
Right, I don't know what the title was, I forgot the title of the person who comes around and kind of
Yes.
walks around the house
Yes.
and details what
Yep,
it is
yep.
you need, so.
What is that?
Yeah,
Please forgive me, I'm sitting a little
Yeah,
farther back. so I
it's,
can't
it's,
apologize.
it's called a fee inspector.
Yeah.
Fee inspector,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
So we
Yep.
got the right fee, that's right, does the the inspection on a
You
renovation
gotta get him
financing.
in to
Talk
talk
about that, yeah.
about what he does as a fee inspector.
That's pretty
Yes,
good.
and so what happens in that situation is if it's a larger, like the one I'm doing right now is a small project, so I received the contractor quote for the plumber, and I received one for just for the general contractor. And I think the general contractor took care of the plumbing, and then we just had one more that took care of he was the specialty one that took care of all the mold remediation. So there was only 2 contractors, and both of those contractors have to get approved, and that's it. We don't deal with a fee inspector in that situation. But if it's a larger scope of a thing, and let's say have bigger stuff like a roof and carpeting and, flooring and kitchen, whatever. When it gets to be a bigger project, that's when the fee inspector is going to be required. It costs more money because you have to pay for the fee inspector.
Is the fee inspector part of the money being used, or is that out of pocket?
That would, they're gonna have to pay for part of the fee inspector's money up front,
Okay,
because the fee inspector has to get paid if the deal never closes.
right.
And then at the end, they can roll it back in at the end. So they can roll it all in at the end, but they do have to pay something up front.
Okay, so then it's incumbent upon the agent that's showing them the house to kind of gather in all the work that needs to be done. And I'm talking about the work that needs to be done to make the house livable, because
Yep.
when this work is done,
Yep.
it still had, the lender, GRA, is still going to have a requirement of, okay,
Right.
you did this much work, but you still can't live in the house because
Right.
you don't have a working, let's say, septic system or something like
Right.
that, right?
But that's what a fee inspector does. The fee inspector will actually walk through the house. Oftentimes, like especially on a FHA, when a fee inspector's involved, they'll go through and say, yeah, that peeling paint needs to be fixed to satisfy FHA. So they're actually working to satisfy FHA. It's not really the realtor's responsibility, it's more the fee inspector.
No, but I'm saying before we even put in an offer, because
Oh,
if we put
right,
in an
right.
offer
Right.
on a place, right?
Yes.
And we say, okay, well, you might be able to get this with the 45,000 remaining that you have, you
Yep.
know, with a little bit taken out, you know? You're like,
Yep.
okay, so that's about 45 grand to play with. If they need a new roof entirely, and a septic system, a full septic system,
Yep.
then that 45 grand is gone.
Yep,
It's gone.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
absolutely gone.
Absolutely.
And if there's more stuff, it's like not gonna work.
correct.
There's
Correct.
too much work,
Yep.
and the
Too
value
much.
of what needs to be done takes you out of the range
Correct.
of money that you
Correct.
have to fix up,
Correct.
so.
So what you're saying basically, Eric, that until you have the inspection done, you really don't know to what level of money you need to use, how much money you may need to have to use. For example, if you need 75,000, you may only qualify for 50,000 of it, you're saying to me.
Right.
Kind of, sort of, yeah?
Yeah, to use the scenario
In
that
that
Mike was,
scenario.
you know, it was they were originally qualified for 300,000, but now they're at 275 because of the slightly higher interest rate.
Right.
And that 275,000 is actually down, so when it's whittled all the way down, they now have about $45,000 worth of work that they can, $45,000 that they can use to work, for some of the work. But if the projects that need to be done at the house are significantly high in cost.
Yeah.
Or less projects are being done, and the contractor sharpens their pencil, maybe a little bit helpful on both sides, and maybe we kind of figure out what needs to be done to get this project done. Because there may be some things they added in there that really aren't need to be done. Obviously, a septic is first and foremost because of not only the lending institution, but you need to build a bathroom and have water. But there may be some things in there that they decided they can hold back on, maybe like painting or maybe the new appliances or something.
Yeah, but as Mike said, like for FHA, you know, there are some things you're just gonna have to address.
I mean, on the other side of the coin, if you wanted a scenario that would potentially still work, you were talking about options. Maybe the option might be, hey, grandma will give you $20,000. That money can be then obviously added to still make the deal come together.
Right.
You know, or
So
something along those lines.
obviously, they can come with some of their own money.
Right.
To cover,
Gift
just not the
money
whole
is-
thing. So like $75,000 worth of work, but they can cover 30, the loan covers the other 45.
Correct,
Right.
correct.
Gift
Yeah.
money's been one of the biggest pieces of the puzzles here in our industry, with clients getting gifts from family, especially in a market like this. It's very common. It's not expected, but it's very common
Yeah.
to see have happen.
But the whole, one last thing, the house still has to be able to have the value of the loan.
Right.
Once all is said and done.
That is
So if you're
correct.
buying a house for 225 and your loan is 275, right? When all is said and done, the house has to have the value of 275 or higher in order for you to get that loan.
That is sort of true, but not necessarily. FHA allows for a 10% tolerance.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So literally on a renovation with FHA, which they call a 203K, they allow a 10% tolerance on there. So even if it doesn't come in at the full value, we have a 10% cushion.
So in this.
Which
in this
actually you can use actually as a realtor if you have a little appraisal
So
issue. by
we're
the way.
talking about in the 250 range, you're talking about 25 grand?
Yep.
Yep. It just has to be within 25 grand of
Correct.
that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, just bear that in mind.
Noticing here on this sheet, by the way, Michael has got us prepared some sheets. The writing is really small, so if you see me squinting, please forgive me in advance.
I see, fine.
With my cheaters and everything else, I'm still squinting over here. But I'm noticing these FICO scores are really reasonable. You're looking at a 580 minimum credit score. I mean, that's not a great credit score to have to get this kind of loan.
That's for an FHA.
FHA, I see under FHA, the standard, the limited, then you go to a Fannie Mae home style at a 620.
Right.
A
That's a
VA
convention.
at 580, and at the FHLMC, what is that?
Freddie Mac, that's another conventional loan.
Freddie
That's
Mac.
the same thing as your, as the one that you just read over here, the,
Fannie Mae home style?
yep, the home style. They're both conventionals.
Gotcha. A couple of things I've noticed over here on these papers is the minimum money needed to do a repair to a home. So you need at least $5,000 in an FHA standard home renovation loan. In a VA, you need at least $3,000. Obviously,
I want to really quick just say something. That's $5,000. You can literally buy a house that's in move-in condition, but it just needs new carpets and maybe appliances. $5,000. You're
what-
done.
So let me ask you a question. What if you want to go high end and get these Viking appliances, and it's going to cost you 20 grand for appliances? You could go to a VA. You can go to a renovation loan and putting these appliances and making a part of your renovation.
If the house is worth what those appliances are going to be added to it within that 10% tolerance like we spoke of.
Because if you go and you buy,
Yes,
let's say,
but
some-
typically an FHA house that's going for 200,000, you're not gonna put a $50,000 Viking in.
correct. But if you go
That
to
would-
buy a house for, let's say, 750,
I didn't know you could buy a Viking.
yeah, I mean, seriously, I'm talking about dollars and cents over
They
here.
fight. Oh, you're talking,
They're used to, they're all dead.
yeah.
Yeah, but the fact that you might buy this big home, like say the house is, I don't know, 4,000 square feet, and it needs like, the whole house has to be painted, it's like 1970s inside, and maybe it's got that shag carpet, and maybe it's got like a big kitchen, but it's really old and it needs like a nice beautiful piece of quartz countertop, islands and everything else over there. So you could actually really take this house, we had validated to make it like now into the year 2024,
Sure.
almost
Sure.
25, right?
Yep.
And go in and put Viking appliances in a house like that, because you know that this house is probably worth in the ballpark of 900,000 to $1 million.
Sure. Yeah, you do it as a conventional Fannie Mae home style.
And
Put a
that
couple
kind of
hundred
loan,
grand in.
you're looking at what kind of percentage down?
It's
5%?
5% down on the total project, the purchase price plus the improvements. So if it's $1 million,
So
you're putting
out-
down 50,000.
You know, a lot of times people are out there looking at these big houses, right? And the problem is you walk in these big houses and they look like they've been stuck in like a flashback. The 80s, the 90s, maybe even the 70s.
Right.
And these houses need so much work inside
Yeah.
them. Right, Eric? Am I right? Am I wrong?
Correct.
You walk in these houses are completely inundated with projects.
I want to make a small correction. I made a
Uh-oh.
mistake, a little one.
Uh-oh.
No, we had a jumbo investor. The
Yes.
jumbo investor dropped out. So out of the
Losers.
whole market. So really, right now, your cap on that is about $800,000.
All right. Well,
So, because that's the new Fannie Mae and Freddie
All right.
Mac loan limits
So
is around
those are-
800.
So 800 G's, you can buy a house. You buy it, let's say for 800 and do the renovations to it, or 800 max out at the top.
800 with renovations is the maximum that you can do on a home style right now,
Okay.
because that's,
So
you
you
know,
buy a
8 and change.
$700,000, 4,000 square foot, whatever it is, 3,000
Right.
square foot, blah, blah, blah. It needs some updates. It's got that 70s, 80s, even 90s vibe in it. And you go and you kind of put some pizzazz in there. Put in 50 plus thousand.
What's wrong with the 80s vibe? Last week, you were all about the
I
80s.
just love the 80s clothing. I love the 80s haircut. I love the 80s makeup to some degree. I love the
You know,
80s
no comment.
You
music.
notice we didn't change our shirts.
Can I tell you something? The 80s are one of the greatest times in history, and we'll always come back to the 80s.
Ronald Reagan.
Year after year, time after time.
Wish I'd bought my house in the 80s.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. It's all come. Look at Dane's haircut. 1980s, baby. All day long. Look at Michael's
Sinead-
haircut.
Sinead O'Connor.
1980s haircut.
Sinead O'Connor,
1980s
1980s.
1980s haircut. All day long.
Okay. Yeah,
100%.
Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
That was good. I hope you guys put on your camera for that one. That was good.
But I'm saying the 80s are always in style no matter what you do. You could throw on a jean jacket today and it would definitely fit in 1980s. All right, going back to
DC on the back.
that's what I'm talking
Yes.
about. Yes.
100%.
All right, so going back to their whole renovation loans, this is a really good product, but something we really have to kind of sit down with you and the client. And there are a lot of questions out there. I mean, it's not something you're going to go, I got it. You need to understand the different pieces of the puzzle. You got to look at the puzzle pieces. We have to look at the puzzle pieces. Got to look at the house. Got to look at the dollars and costs and cents and everything else there. Got to run the numbers. You got to make sure the contractor's qualified, get them qualified in it. And the whole process, though, is getting to be able to make an offer on a house, going into contract. The seller knows it's a longer time period process. Process from begin to end, maybe 60 days.
It depends on how fast I get the quotes. The faster I get the quotes, the faster I can move the file
So
through.
if your contractor's working, like a Michael Christoforo style.
Ideally, I like to trigger the file after I already have the contractor quote, because then I'll close it in 30 days. Without, you know what I'm saying?
That's
So,
crazy.
so that's the
You
best
close-
way.
You close the file, but the work's still being done?
The
Or
work's
work is
done
being-
after. The work is all done after the closing. We hold it into an escrow. So if it's 45,000 or 50,000, that's all sitting in an escrow account for the work to start after the closing.
And the contractors have written out a quote that they have to stick to. Now,
Correct.
what happens if it goes over budget? Now we spring a leak.
Well,
Something comes
we
up.
always, depending on the type of project, in that situation where the water was off, we put in a 15% buffer.
Okay.
And if that 15% buffer is not used, then that goes back as credited towards your balance on your principal.
Very interesting. So,
So if you don't, if they don't use it, it goes right back, or they can do an extra, they can add work onto it.
so realistically, the best type of house to find are the ones that have been sitting in the market for a little while that your buyer hasn't been able to even consider looking at because of the condition it's in. But now they have a chance to get a renovation loan over here, right? And the renovation loan allows them to become that whoop whoop buyer, and they're interested now as a buyer to buy that house because you have the ability to make it what you want.
Well, I mean, their offer is going to be better than an investor offer as well.
Absolutely. Well, it's going to be probably the only offer to be coming in too.
No, but I mean, you're gonna have investors who are, the houses.
Flipper.
Right,
Right.
because there has to be a profit margin
That's
for the
all- That's a
investor.
very good point.
So
Yeah.
it's like, we're ahead of the investors because they're not gonna be able to turn a profit.
That's right.
Because
Yeah,
the amount of
absolutely.
work that we need to do and all this other stuff, yeah, so the numbers are gonna work better.
Plus, our offer is probably better than an investor because investors typically like to buy pennies in the dollar, where you as a buyer willing to pay favorable price to the seller and get the work done to have the house you want.
Yep.
Very good stuff.
Yep.
Very good stuff, Michael Christoforo, on this home renovation loans. Michael Christoforo, I love the name, by the way.
Thank you.
Michael Christoforo, as far as types of mortgages out there, there's a lot of things coming up. We know that time to own is coming down the pipe pretty quickly.
Mhm.
We thought it was active and ready to go. Just found out it was supposed to be, not ready to go yet. Time to own, let me know what time to own is, please.
Time to Own is a product, they just made a change to it. It used to be 25 to 50,000, depending on where. That's no longer the case. They just dropped all the 50,000, so it's now 25,000 maximum for any town in the state of Connecticut. It's all income-based, and
Income and credit,
It's up to 25,000.
up to 25,000, yep.
and credit, kind of, sort of, yes or no?
Yes, but it's basically a loan that will be given to you, and you have it forgiven at 10% a year for 10 years.
So basically, you buy a house, you get 25 Gs, you have to be there for 10 years.
Up to 25.
You can be there half the time, you'll just get half of it forgiven.
Right.
So it's, the longer
It's
you're
10
there, the
years.
more it's forgiven.
10
that's
grand
all.
every year over 10 times 10, 100%.
Quick math,
It's a quick math lesson.
that is quick math lesson by Erik Vasquez, and you're far right. He is a math man, he's not just good looking.
He's neither.
So basically, Time to Own money was supposed to be out with the state of Connecticut by the 23rd. Here it is now, the 1st. It's not out yet.
Look at that, you're already getting a call. That's amazing.
Phones will be ringing.
So it's not out yet, but
But it's
we're
coming.
expecting. Yeah, I mean, Chaffa just released 5 million of their own personal funds from their treasury to basically move stuff along while they waited for the state of Connecticut.
There's a lot here on the table we're talking about. It can be very overwhelming. You could be very confused. We as realtors get confused all the time as well, because there's so much happening all the time in this market and these different kind of products. You want to call Michael. You want to ask the questions. If you need your mom or dad or people who might be a part of this purchase,
401k.
right, 401k, you definitely want to make sure that they're there to ask the questions as well, because if you do that, you're going to be in a better spot, because you'll feel it here. If you're comfortable here, you're comfortable here, if you're comfortable here, bam, time to make an offer.
Happy
buy a
to
house.
take the calls, even if the deal doesn't come together. I deal with calls all day long. That's my job.
Michael, you're a great guy. Eric,
No,
anything else you can think of? I mean, this is pretty
no, I
tough.
grilled them pretty good.
You
So,
did.
Yeah.
Michael, again, thank you. Thank you for being here.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you for making this show fly by. I don't know how long it's been, but it feels like it's been probably more than 30 minutes, so I apologize.
I think we're right at about 30 minutes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
But
Perfect.
most importantly, I want to make sure everybody's going to get in touch with you because of who you are and what you do, what you bring to the table. That number on the screen over there again, please, your cell phone. Please.
203-314-7352.
Michael Christoforo, guaranteed rate affinity, an amazing mortgage broker, over 30 years in the business. Somebody that when you make an offer, your offer actually gets looked at and it goes to the top of the pile. They know the lender, they make the phone call, they know you're good to go, and it makes a difference in this market.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here
Thank you.
today. You're awesome. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Be well,
Thank
be
you.
safe, and let's get ready to give out a free tumbler. Who's going to be the lucky winner this week? Erik Vasquez.
No, I already have one. I can't win. But thank you.
Oh my goodness.
I don't have one of the new ones though, so come on, Eric.
You got Devontae Miller off Instagram.
Devontae Miller. Does he play basketball or something, or football? Devontae Miller? Isn't
No.
that a famous player?
Devontae Adams,
Is Devontae
football
Adams?
players.
Okay.
Adam.
Well, Devontae Miller, congratulations. You just won yourself a tumbler. Please make sure you get in touch with us Make sure we have your contact, please, so we can get this out to you. I want to thank you all so very much for being part of our show. Please like, share this show. Please make sure to ask questions because it's a lot. There's so many things happening. And we need to make sure we understand and have fun doing it.
Hey, Dave.
Yes, sir.
Rank these loans. No, I'm just kidding.
That was a good one, Eric.
Maybe next week.
Have a wonderful night, everybody, and we will see you next